What if a dying stranger carried the power to change the rest of your life? Jake Morrison never expected that kind of question to find him on a quiet Montana morning. He was just a wandering cowboy with worn boots and a tired mare, moving along a dusty trail with nothing but a patched saddlebag and a heart that still believed in doing right even when no one was watching. The sun was rising slow across the hills, painting the sky in soft gold. Jake guided his old bay mare Sugar toward Willow Creek. He hoped to find work at the spring roundup. He didn't have much. 2 shirts, a spare pair of socks, his mother's Bible, and exactly $37. But he had a good name. People trusted him. And in the West, sometimes a good name was worth more than silver. Sugar's ears flicked back as Jake patted her neck. "It's just you and me again, girl," he said, giving her a gentle smile. "Let's see what today brings." But the morning had other plans. Jake was about to turn toward a small homestead when a distant sound made him stop cold. A calf bawling in distress. Most folks would ignore it. Most folks would say it wasn't their problem. But Jake was not most folks. He turned Sugar toward the sound without a second thought. The cries led him to a steep gully where a young calf was stuck tight between 2 rocks. The little thing kicked and screamed, terrified and hurting. Jake climbed down and worked quietly, steady as ever, whispering soft words while he freed its trapped leg. It took nearly an hour, but he saved it. The calf ran back to its mother, and Jake felt that warm, simple feeling he always got when he did the right thing. His stomach growled loud enough to echo in the gully. He laughed softly. "Well," he said, brushing off dust, "breakfast can wait." He mounted Sugar again, ready to head toward Willow Creek, but something in the distance caught his eye. A low cloud of dust, too early for weather, too scattered for a rider. Something about it felt wrong. "What do you think, girl?" he murmured. Sugar snorted as if answering. Jake nudged her forward. He couldn't explain it. A pull in his chest told him someone needed help, and he'd never been good at turning away from someone in trouble. As they drew closer, dark shapes circled in the sky, buzzards. Jake's jaw tightened. Nothing good ever came from buzzards. He rode down a rocky slope, heart thumping harder with each step. Sugar slowed as the birds scattered. Lying near a shallow creek bed was a body. Jake jumped down before Sugar stopped. It wasn't an animal. It was a woman. An older woman dressed in men's riding clothes. Her silver hair fell from a loose braid. Dust covered her face, but Jake could see she was alive. Barely. Her breathing was weak, sharp, like each breath fought its way in. A strange silver pendant hung at her throat. Its surface glimmered with carved markings Jake had never seen before. When her eyelids fluttered open, Jake froze. Her eyes were sharp and piercing, as if she could see straight into him. "Took you long enough," she whispered. And even half dead, she tried to smile. "Ma'am," Jake said quickly, removing his jacket and covering her shoulders. "I'm going to ride for help." Quote. Her hand shot out and grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. "No time," she rasped. "Listen to me. I'm Sarah Blackwood, and I've been waiting for someone like you." Jake blinked. "Waiting? For him? A cowboy drifting from job to job?" "Ma'am, you need a doctor." "What I need," she said, voice hardening, "is someone with a good heart. Someone who frees a trapped calf when nobody's watching." Jake's blood ran cold. "How did you—" "Been watching you since sunrise." She coughed, each breath sounding like it tore at her ribs. "Needed to be sure you were the right one." "Right one for what?" Jake asked, confused, but she didn't answer. She struggled to sit up, gripping his shirt. "Help me up. There's something you need to see, something I need to show you before my time runs out." Jake shook his head. "You can barely stand." "Then you'll help me ride," she insisted. Her stubbornness was stronger than her failing body. Jake looked around. No help for miles, no doctor. No one but him. Against all sense, he found himself lifting her carefully, letting her lean on him. She was light but wiry, like someone who had carried the weight of a hard life on thin shoulders. "Sarah," she corrected gently when he called her Miss Blackwood. "We don't have time for formalities, Jake Morrison." His breath caught. "How do you know my name?" She gave a thin smile. "Asked about you at the ranch last week. Said you were honest, hard-working, too proud to take charity. That last part was important." Jake swallowed hard. This woman, this stranger, had been looking for him, watching him. Her horse, a sturdy black mare, waited hidden in the rocks. Jake helped Sarah onto its back. She winced but kept her jaw tight. "There's a place up in those hills," she said, pointing with a trembling hand. "A hidden cabin. Been in my family for generations. I need to get there. My time is short." Jake glanced at the trail she pointed to. It was narrow, nearly invisible. "Ma'am, Sarah, you need rest, not a mountain climb." Her eyes locked onto his. "Jake, if you take me to town, I'll die before we arrive. But if you take me to that cabin, you'll understand everything. And maybe you'll see why I waited for you." Her voice cracked on the last word. Jake felt something tighten in his chest, a pull he couldn't explain. "Yes, ma'am," he said quietly. "I'll help you." A relieved breath escaped her lips. "Good. Then let's not waste any more time." As Jake guided the horses up the hidden trail, he couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't just helping a dying woman. He was stepping into a secret, one that would change everything. Jake guided the horses up the narrow trail while the sun dipped lower behind the hills. The air grew cooler, and shadows stretched long across the land. Sugar walked steady beside Sarah's black mare, but Jake could feel the old woman weakening with every step. Still, her eyes stayed sharp. She watched the land like someone reading a book only she understood. "Turn left at that bent pine," she whispered. "Notched rock on the right. Keep it in sight." Jake did as she said. The path wound through thick brush, then opened into a ridge he never would have found on his own. Sarah knew every inch of it. It was as if the land itself had grown up around her. "You've walked these trails a long time," Jake said. "My whole life," she answered softly. "This land raised me, fed me, hid me when I needed hiding." She leaned sideways suddenly, and Jake rushed to steady her. "We can rest," he said. "No," she breathed. "We keep going. Time is running thin." Her strength was fading fast. They reached a small spring tucked under a rocky ledge. The water trickled clear and cold. Jake helped her down from the horse. She dropped to her knees, scooping a handful of water to her lips. Her hands shook badly. Jake knelt beside her. "Sarah, what happened to you out there?" She wiped water from her chin. "Life happened. Age happened. But none of that matters now. What matters is what I'm passing on." He stared at her. "Passing on?" Her gaze met his, steady and intense. "Legacy," she said. "Responsibility and danger, all tied together." Jake didn't understand. Not yet. They rode again, following faint markers Sarah pointed out. Crossed sticks on a stump, a carved line on a stone, old signs only she could see. Her breathing grew messy, each inhale a battle. "Why me?" Jake asked gently. "You don't know me." She gave a small smile. "I know enough. A man's true nature shows when nobody is watching. You helped that calf when you hadn't eaten since dawn. That told me everything." Jake felt his throat tighten. No one had ever said something like that about him. Sarah pointed at a narrow gap between two cliffs. "Through there. Then you'll see it." They squeezed through the rock walls, emerging into a hidden valley that looked untouched by time. Aspen trees shimmered in silver tones. Wildflowers dotted the ground. A small creek wound through the grass. It felt peaceful, sacred. Jake stared in awe. "I never knew a place like this existed." "That's the point," Sarah whispered. "Only Blackwoods knew, until now." He helped her down from her horse. She swayed on her feet, but motioned for him to follow. She led him toward a rock shelf high above. Halfway up, Jake finally saw it. A cabin, built into the cliff itself, hidden so well it blended into the stone. Weathered wood, iron hinges, thick beams. It looked old but strong. A place built by hands that knew how to hide something precious. "My grandfather built it," Sarah said proudly. "Took him 3 years. Nights only, so the smoke wouldn't show. Jake helped her climb the last few steps. She pulled a key from a chain under her shirt. Her hands shook so much she could barely guide it. "Jake," she said, voice suddenly soft and serious, "what you're about to see, no one else has laid eyes on in 40 years. Are you ready for that burden?" Jake swallowed. Everything inside him told him this moment mattered. "I'm ready." Sarah nodded once. The lock clicked open. The cabin's interior glowed as she lit an old oil lamp. Jake stepped inside, feeling the weight of history around him. The place was small but filled with meaning. Books lined the walls, quilts hung neatly, photographs rested on shelves. "Third key from the left," Sarah instructed. Jake grabbed the brass key and opened a heavy oak cabinet. Inside were leather ledgers, rolled maps, metal boxes, and neat stacks of documents. "What? What is all this?" Jake whispered. "Everything the Blackwood family ever owned," she said, sinking into a rocking chair. "Every secret, every deed, every map." Her voice thinned. She pointed to the red book with gold stamping. He brought it to her. "These are the land deeds," she said. "Water rights, mineral rights, grazing claims, some older than the county itself." Jake flipped through the pages, stunned. This is worth more than—" "Money," she finished. "Yes, but money is the least of it." She coughed hard, gripping her chest. "Second key," she gasped. "Iron one." Jake opened a cabinet beneath the window. A false panel slid free. Behind it were canvas bags stacked in perfect rows. He lifted one. Heavy. Gold. Real gold. Sarah smiled weakly. "But that's not the treasure," she whispered. "Open the floorboard. The rug." Quote. Jake slid the rug aside, revealing a trapdoor. Inside was a small strongbox, etched with the same markings as her pendant. He lifted it to the table. "This," she said, touching the lid, "holds the truth of why I've been hiding all these years." She tried to insert the silver key but couldn't. Her hands trembled too much. Jake guided her fingers, turning the lock. Inside were velvet pouches of jewelry, stacks of letters, old photographs, and a leather-bound journal. Sarah took the journal and pressed it into Jake's hands. "Read it," she whispered. "Start at the beginning. It tells the story of my family, the land we protected, the danger that comes with it." Jake shook his head. "Sarah, you need a doctor." "No," she breathed. "I need you to listen." Her fingers curled around his arm with surprising strength. "There's a curse, Jake." His heart jumped. "A curse?" he asked. Her eyes met his. Steady. Serious. "Not magic. Not superstition. The curse of old money. Old power. Old enemies. The kind that destroyed my family once. It is coming again." Lightning cracked outside. The cabin trembled. Sarah's breath rattled, thinner with every second. "We don't have much time," she whispered. "You must understand before it's too late." Jake felt the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders, but he also felt something else. A pull, a purpose, a sudden knowing that his life had just shifted in a way he couldn't undo. Sarah tightened her grip. "You were meant to be here," she whispered. "Meant to hear this." Her voice faded. "Jake, everything depends on what you choose next." The storm outside beat hard against the hidden cabin as Jake knelt beside Sarah. Her breaths came slow and thin, but her eyes stayed bright with urgency. She clutched his wrist, forcing him to look at her. "Jake, listen carefully," she whispered. "There's more you must know." He leaned closer. "I'm here. Just tell me." Sarah nodded weakly, turning the journal so he could see the first page. The handwriting was delicate, but sharp, like someone who wrote with purpose. "My great-grandfather discovered something no one else knew," she said. "Not just gold, not just land. He found water, hidden water, springs, aquifers, whole rivers under the ground." Jake stared at her. "But water rights, they're worth more than gold out here." "Exactly." Her voice crackled like dry leaves. "And that's why men have killed for them." A cough shook her body. Jake steadied her, but she lifted her hand again. "I inherited everything when my grandfather died." All the land, all the maps, all the secrets. She pointed to the ledgers. But my own family, they wanted it for themselves. They tried to take it. They tried to take the water. They didn't care if it destroyed the valley. Jake felt a chill deeper than the storm. So you hid, he said quietly. Sarah nodded. For 40 years, watching everything, protecting everyone, making sure no one unworthy touched what was meant for all. She pointed weakly toward the strongbox. But that's not the danger I fear now. Jake opened the lid again. Inside were letters tied in faded ribbon. He flipped through them, legal papers, court records, threats written in cold ink. A name showed again and again. Harrison Drake. The letters were sharp. Ruthless. Powerful. Who is he? Jake asked. A man who wants to own every drop of water in this valley, Sarah breathed. He's worse than my family ever was. He's been hunting me for years, and he won't stop, even after I'm gone. Jake felt something burn in his chest. Anger, maybe fear, but stronger than both, resolve. You could have given this to anyone, he said quietly, but you chose me. Sarah smiled faintly, because you don't chase money. You chase what's right. Her hand reached for the silver pendant around her neck. She pulled it off with trembling fingers and pressed it into Jake's palm. This is the key, she whispered. Key to the root cellar, key to the maps, key to everything. He closed his hand around it. Sarah, he said, his voice tight. Don't talk like you're leaving. But she gave him the softest smile. Son, I was leaving before you found me. Jake felt his throat close. She lifted her hand one last time. Promise me something. Anything. Protect the land, she whispered. Protect the water. Protect the people who depend on it. Don't let Drake destroy what this place has kept alive. Jake swallowed hard. I promise. She sighed. A long, peaceful breath. I knew you would. Her eyes softened as they drifted shut, and then she was gone. Jake sat frozen for a long time, listening to the storm ease outside, listening to the cabin creak and settle. The weight of the pendant burned in his palm. He held Sarah's journal tight against his chest, feeling the truth of her trust sink into his bones. Morning light slowly crept into the cabin. Jake stood and covered her gently with the quilt she loved. He bowed his head. I'll guard it, he whispered. I'll guard everything you loved. He took the pendant and moved to the back of the cabin. A small lock was built into the floor. The pendant fit perfectly. The panel clicked open. The root cellar smelled of earth and secrets kept too long. Inside were maps of every spring in the region, letters to judges explaining her decisions, lists of families she helped, and a final note addressed to him. His name in her handwriting. He opened it, hands shaking. Jake, if you are reading this, then the land has chosen you. You are the kind of man my grandfather trusted. Guide the water. Protect the valley. Share the knowledge, not the greed. This place is yours to guard now. Do what is right. Sarah. Jake closed the letter, blinking away the sting in his eyes. When he left the cabin, the sun was rising. The valley glowed like gold. It felt alive, waiting, trusting. He mounted Sugar with Sarah's journal tucked close to his chest. As he rode toward Willow Creek, he knew Drake would come. Challenges would come. Maybe danger too. But he also knew one thing for sure. He would fight for Sarah's land, for her legacy, for the people who needed that water to survive. And no matter what stood in his way, he would stand his ground. Because some promises run deeper than blood, some duties run deeper than gold, and some waters, once trusted to you, must be protected with your life